I felt like I'd never seen it before, and I just remember thinking, this is so wholesome, because all of these boys are just you, all in your shirt, singing so beautifully, and it's not been seen before.
So what does being allowed mean to you?
Being included, being a part of something, just allowed to be yourself and have a voice.
Yeah.
You know, and it stems right back to him, just having that vision and idea and wanting to change the
stigma.
The stigma, yeah.
I love that.
Glinda on the West End was the pinnacle of my career, and I doubt anything will ever compare. But as time's gone on, I don't know, I think the reality of what I'm actually doing and the pressure, I go, oh my God, I'm standing on a stage with 2,500 people fronting this show, singing a top C every night. Like that became quite daunting to me. The fact that it exists, that Only Boys Aloud exist, that Only Voices exist, is always going to be a positive.
And again, you know, it's completely free to be part of, to be doing those experiences and to have that atmosphere, achievement. It costs nothing.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Aloud Podcast. This season is all about Only Boys Aloud, the Welsh choir, past, present and future. My name is Tom Hyer, and I am honestly so thrilled to be hosting this podcast. Only Boys Aloud was so pivotal to my development professionally and personally, and I can't wait to dive into the voices, the experiences that helped carve out my life, and all of these wonderful alumni from the past in Only Boys Aloud, and to celebrate what Only Boys Aloud and the Aloud charity is creating still for these young people, and to ensure that people know enough about it to secure its future. So have a listen to the Aloud Podcast. You can find us on all the platforms, and you can watch this on YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, and click all the buttons. See you soon. Now, I'm going to take this opportunity to welcome you, Sophie Evans, to the Aloud Podcast formally. Thank you so much for taking the time to come onto this podcast. I've known you for a very long time, and we've been working together on and off for years now, and it's been such a pleasure to see how much talent you have on the stage, obviously, but how capable you are off as well. So it's awesome to have you here to talk about everything that's related to your career and how that's linked to the values of the Aloud charity. Welcome, and how's everything going?
Hi, thank you for having me, first off. Super excited for this podcast to begin and be a part of it. Everything's going really well for me, as you mentioned. I got my two boys, so that feels really a nice little connection to talk today, because who knows what they'll be into in the future. And career-wise and performance-wise, I suppose I'm still ticking along. Things have changed, priorities have changed, but you know, who knows what'll happen in the next 5 to 10 years for me and my family. But right now, I'm loving where we're at.
Awesome. And I think the word balance comes to mind there. You know, you've managed to achieve so many different things in your career. And now your greatest role to date as mum to your young boys. You know, how have you found it balancing the career with your, you know, more than full-time job at home? Yeah,
I'd say it's an ongoing learning curve, because I've wanted to be a mother for as long as I can remember. I've always been very maternal, and I understand it's not for everybody. And there's things that come into life that make you feel like, oh, can I do it now? Should I do it now? But for me, I just felt always ready. So when it happened, it was just the best thing for us. But all that being said, having the career that you'll understand, the career that we have, is maybe like lots of careers, it's not easy to have children and still maintain a career. And to progress in your career, I think, is probably the biggest thing for me. So to try and balance, like, completely absorbing the babies and being fully present as a parent, which is a privilege, because I know everyone's got stuff going on and life is busy. But for me, I really wanted that. I wanted just to slow down and just like focus on being a family. But with my career, I can't just let it completely go. I can't take a year out and not do anything, because the minute I do that, the next person comes along and takes the work. So it's hard.
I wonder if it's something to do with the industry that we're both in and have been in for a very long time now. I can't remember the first time we actually met, but it was probably 2000 and...
We were small, like 2008?
It was for a concert in Cardiff, 2008.
I was about 14, I feel, and you maybe 15.
And then obviously both went to drama school at different times, and then, you know, full circle, now we work together quite a lot. But there's something quite unconventional, well, very unconventional about the industry that we're in. And perhaps that makes it harder?
Yeah, maybe. And we can only speak from our experiences. But I don't know if we've had this conversation before, but a lot of people's careers, or you'd hope, you start at the bottom, say, for example, you work in medicine, and there's always if you want it, there's a goal, you can keep going up and keep going up. Whereas with us, it's like this.
Yes.
You might be at the peak, and then next week you're out of a job, and you could be working in a coffee shop. It's just so up and down.
Yeah, and like navigating that with being a parent, you know, because parent is consistency, isn't it? Like you cannot do that with parenting. Like it is 24/7, and you can't have an off day.
No.
Why don't we start at the very beginning? Very good place to start.
It is. Hey, love it.
You know, pre all of these amazing achievements, where did the passion of music start for you?
Oh gosh, I think my mother's very, very passionate about music. She can sing, you know, she's not the most amazing singer ever, but she can sing. So I just grew up around music, you know, listening to the likes of Barbra Streisand, the divas, I like to say Whitney, Celine, and then people like Rod Stewart, Kenny Rogers, Barry Manilow, just all these probably performers that I wouldn't have been introduced to unless my mother was into music.
Sure.
So I think it started, I just wanted to be a singer. I remember 3 or 4 years old, just wanting to sing. I'd put on little performances in the living room. I wanted to be in all the school shows. But I also did amateur dramatics, and I think I kind of came to life on a theatre stage.
So what age was that?
I started amateur dramatics when I was about 6 or 7.
Okay, yeah.
In my local theatre, the Park and Day Theatre in Treorchy, which, if anyone's been there, is amazing. Little gem
Unreal
of a place
theatre.
in the middle of
Probably
the valley.
one of my favourite theatres. I wouldn't say in the world, but certainly, you know, in UK.
It's
for sure.
It's just really special.
Yeah. It's like a West End theatre.
It is like a West End theatre. The arch and the red seats, like it's really
Big
majestic.
backstage, like it's set up for it, isn't it?
It is. So I did that, and I just remember that feeling. My first show was Annie, and the auditions came up in my local, like, whatever, Labour Club or whatever. And you had to go in, write on a piece of paper who you wanted to be, and I just put anyone. Like, I just wanted to be in the show. I didn't care what I was. I wasn't that, as much as you might be like, really? I wasn't front and centre. I didn't want that. I just wanted to be involved.
That is interesting.
And I think that's why I love Welsh West End so much. Because I get to be, we can talk about that later, but I get to be like involved in something, but I can be at the back if I need to.
Sure, that's really interesting, because like you strike me as someone who is very strong-minded, very competitive in a good way.
Yeah, yeah.
And in, you know, is very comfortable being front and centre.
I am now, but I think it took a while to get to that point.
That is interesting.
Yeah. I love being in the ensemble as much as I love being the leading lady.
Yeah, so did I, actually.
Yeah.
Back in the day. So was that because you were watching people older than you, and you were quite happy to like?
Maybe. I just love the experience. I love being part of a team. I love seeing things come together. I felt like I could get that buzz without the pressure, maybe, because you know, I've been Glinda on the West End was pinnacle of my career, and I doubt anything will ever compare. And at the start, I was young, I was 24, and I think I just went, oh, this is going to be amazing. Like, I didn't have those extreme nerves. But as time's gone on, I don't know, I think the reality of what I'm actually doing and the pressure, I go, oh my God, I'm standing on a stage with 2,500 people fronting this show.
Yeah.
Singing a top C every night. Like, that became quite daunting to me. So, yeah, I don't know if it's just I actually don't love that feeling, but actually once you've conquered that feeling, that's an amazing feeling to be like, even though I felt like that, I did it.
I agree with you, you know. I remember the time where I just never got pressure. I never felt pressure, never felt nerves. And like you, I was performing from a young age, you know, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 in school, and then just carrying on. And Amdram, for me, Amateur Dramatics was one of the main places.
Where did you do Amateur Dramatics then?
Aberdeen, Blaen y Gwent, Ebervale, Tredegar. Some, you know, shout out for Tredegar Operatic Society, Blaen y Gwent Young Stars, Call Stars in Aberdeen. Truthfully, that's where I learned loads of the craft, and I think that's where loads of people did, of our generation at least. But I loved it as well, and I just find it, the pressure came after once you contemplate what you're doing, right?
Yeah, and I think the professional side adds another layer, whereas when it's something that you are doing for, I suppose, the love and the fun of it. You're not getting paid. You're doing it because you want to do it. Like you had to kind of audition, I suppose, but it's not that intensity. But I don't know how you feel about this, but I remember that feeling of being on stage, and I mean, maybe
when
I was younger.
Oh, right, okay.
Maybe because it's a memory, I'm bigging it up. But I honestly think I felt the same in the bows as I did on the West End. Like for me, it was like that
the
same
gratification.
feeling. Yeah.
I agree with you, and I actually think in some ways it was better.
Yeah, weird,
before.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, because it was just for the pure love of it.
Yeah.
And nothing else, no pressure, no expectation, no waiting of anything or finance.
No one had paid £150 for a ticket.
No, and there's no duty either, so like you don't have to do, as amazing it is to do stage door and all that stuff, there's no responsibility because it isn't a job, it's a passion. And I think, some of the people I work with now in a coaching facility, they still do that amateur dramatic stuff, and I go like, wow, that is incredible.
Yeah, I'd rather get paid, mine.
Obviously,
I do like eating food and stuff.
It's our job, like it's obviously. You mentioned something in there about nothing could have more pressure or nothing could be better. You said, right? The role of playing Glinda in the West End.
Oh, yeah, that's for me the pinnacle, yeah.
So how does that compare to being a mum?
Oh, different, very different. I would take being a mother, if someone said to me, and I don't know if this is going to come across as really ungrateful, but if someone said to me, you never perform again, but you've got your amazing family, you're all healthy, and we'd like more children, but you're never going to sing again. Like I would do that. That's for me, being able to sing, and the fact that my hobby turned into my job and my career is just a complete bonus. Whereas I think having a family, I don't know, I just feel so blessed to have my babies. Like I just wouldn't give that up for anything.
I guess what I'm interested in is music's obviously been pivotal for you and always been a part of your life.
Yeah.
Is music a big part of your parenting life, and is it a part of the boys? Because it's not always that way, is it? Just because you are doing it doesn't mean...
I think it is, but I'm actually trying to make a conscious effort of making it, but not forcing it down their throats, kind of thing. Like they'll be into what they're into. We can guide them and give them the options. But like we sing, like this morning, we were singing in the house. We were dancing in the kitchen. Like me and Jack. Jack does like music, I've noticed. Yeah. Whether he can sing or not yet, I'm not sure. Whereas with my nephew, who's now 8, I remember when he was about Jack's age thinking, you've got a little voice in there. I could hear the tone was there. He could listen to music and sing the right key. Wow. Whereas Jack kind of jumps from the key, he's singing Wheels on the Bus and he's doing 4 keys. You know what I mean? Like the wipers on the bus are different to the wheels at the moment.
C major, A minor, different. Yeah.
But he likes it. Yeah.
So, the Aloud podcast is all about Only Boys Aloud, past, present and future. I'm alumni of hundreds, possibly thousands of people now who've come through the programme and have benefited from being part of it. And it's not just about being part of a choir, the values are so much more important than that. And that's what this podcast is hopefully trying to encapsulate, the success really of being part of something like that, So looking ahead, for you, you've got 2 boys at home, you are still doing very, very well in this crazy industry that we're in. What is next for you in the next, 6 months, 12 months? What's next? Obviously bringing up the boys we've chatted about, but how about, goals?
I suppose career? For me, in the back of my head, the West End will always be there. And there are roles I would like to do. In the next 6 months, probably not.
Sure.
But people go, when are you going back to the West End? As if it's that easy. But there are, I'd love to be Jenna and Waitress if that opportunity ever came around. Les Mis is something, I think we've spoke about this. Sure. It would be amazing to be part of that show. Yeah. If it happens for me, again, it'll feel like a bonus. It's not the be all and end all. Whereas maybe when I was younger, it felt like, I have to get one of those roles. Yeah. I've kind of lost that a little bit. So I'd say for me in my professional life, goals would be to get to a point where I maintain, I suppose, a reputation where people want to employ me. Concerts, I love doing concerts, travelling. If I can travel with work, amazing. But I've started a business with one of our good friends, Steph, who's Broadway Brunch. I'm hoping that franchise kind of pushes on a bit and we maybe do cruises, and so I can kind of sit back a little bit but still be involved in the world.
So how do you I'm looking at that, like my life is busy as well, right? Different hats, if you like. That's the way I like to think of it.
You're
It's
an
like,
amazing teacher as well. Like,
thank you.
well,
I'll just say thanks for that. I don't know. You know, juggling different things. And I think that's part of being freelance.
Yeah.
But certainly freelance in this industry, in the creative industry, you kind of have to have different things going on. And you've just explained you've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
How do you balance it in a week though? How do you find time to learn lines and learn scripts when you've got 2 boys at home?
I gotta be honest, I struggle with it massively, and if I'm ever gonna have what feels like a little bit of a wobble or a breakdown, it's when everything comes at once.
Yes.
For me, I can have a week or two where my diary looks pretty free, and then all of a sudden it becomes, so I've got a couple of different agencies that look after me for different things, because I also do a lot of social media bits. I suppose you'd say influencing is an awkward word to say, but I do, and especially in relation to my family life. So I might get, that agent rings me, oh, want to do a reel for Welsh Government, la-di-da? Yeah, needed by Friday, this is Monday. Then it'll come in, oh, Sunday Morning Live have wanted you on Wednesday, can you go to Carmarthen for the day? And my instinct is to say yes to everything. But sometimes I do have to say no, and I do struggle, and I'm so lucky that my husband is organised and I'm not. Well, no, I'm not lucky that I'm not, but I'm lucky that he is, because I'll go, oh, I've had all these things come in. He'll go, right, let me look through the diary. I'll sort out the kids, because childcare obviously comes into it, because he's working as well.
Cool.
So I got to be honest, I find that really hard.
So how do you do it though? Do you know what I mean? Because like, it's hard, I know, and it's hard for me, it's hard for everyone, but you still have things to do, right? So like, you still have to do the 2 boys, you still have to get that self-tip done by Friday, and you still have to do it. So is it just a case of like time blocking it? Do you you know?
What me and Ellis have got a shared diary, and I find that's been game changer for us this year, because his stuff is very ad hoc as well. He gets asked to do, he does a lot of podcasts, a lot of stuff for BBC Scrum 5, and but he's also just started a new job, so there's a bit more structure to his week, but things do come in last minute. I have my moment where I freak out, and I've had moments where I have to lie down and I have shock and brain fog, and I'm like, I can't process how I'm going to make this work. Yeah. And then Ellis comes in like my knight in shining armour and goes, we'll make it work. So I think having the team setup that I've got.
Unit, right?
The unit, yeah, working as a team.
Yeah, and I think that's trial and error as well, isn't it? You know, you don't always get it right, and I think that's fine. Nobody does. You know, there's a great quote, I think, or podcast that Michelle Obama said, that like, she said that everyone thinks that she gets it right all the time. And she's like, nobody knows what they're doing, you know? They just have to go on instinct or gut, and they have to work together. So, you know, that collaboration, that unit thing, family life, being a parent, balancing it with work, certainly in this career is not easy, but it sounds like you're smashing it.
Yeah. Well, we do our best. I think there's always a human element. I surprise myself sometimes at how much I can lose it.
Well, like, in terms of temper?
No, not temper. Well, yeah, I got that a bit as well. But
it's the redhead in you.
Lose my, like, yeah. It comes from a box, mind. But yeah, I add the redness to my life. But I can be absolutely fine 1 minute, and then next minute it feels like my world's crumbling. And I don't know, I go through, well, this is getting a bit deep now, but that can really affect my mind. Well,
before you started talking about that, I was going to come back to almost like the Aloud kind of values again. It's like, you know, what Only Boys Aloud is a choir, right? But musically, people can benefit from that. I benefited from that. Worked with some amazing people, some incredible experiences that I'm sure we'll mention on this podcast at some point. But actually, the real benefit was things like confidence, education or punctuality, diligence, commitment, and also mental health. And mental health wasn't really a thing that we talked a lot about, you know, when I was part of Only Boys Aloud 10. It's something that's really come into the, you know, forefront of everyone's mind in a good way. But I guess that's also linked to confidence, right?
It's not linear, definitely not. I think, well, for me personally, and as you say, something like Only Boys Aloud, the confidence that would build in young boys and children for the voices as well is priceless. Like, you know, to be a part of something and be told that, you know, one, you're decent, that, you know, getting that recognition, but also being with like-minded people who want to progress and just better themselves and just be involved in something. I think it doesn't always have to have that end goal of I'm going to be a superstar. I think it can just be for the love of it, which is, you know, there's no right or wrong. But for me personally, confidence has gone up and down in line with my mental health usually. I have doubted in the past, but most of the time I don't doubt that I can sing. I think I've been around the block enough that, I can definitely hold a tune. But there are times where I think...
I can say for the team, you can definitely hold a tune.
Yeah, I'm all right. But there have been times in my life where I do doubt, I suppose, how much of that is enough. Is that enough? Is there enough to be good? What am I missing? Because in our industry, and I'm not sure how much the Only Boys Aloud choir experience this, because I don't know if you can you just be a part, or do you have to audition?
No, you can just be anybody can join. There's no auditions.
But in our career, we get a lot of no's, we get a lot of, I suppose that's where the doubt creeps in, because you think, I would be amazing at this. I've auditioned for Les Mis loads of times, got to the finals, not got it, and you think, why? What is it? Am I just not quite hitting the mark anymore?
And I think, that's linked to, again, the career path that it is. If you are a business owner, if you are in finance, if you are in education, your CV will speak for itself, or you'll have a briefcase of your work, right? Yeah. But unfortunately, in this industry, your work is you. Yeah. So you walk in with nothing, or maybe some sheet music for the piano. So you have to demonstrate what you are capable of every single time, rather than rely on what you've done. Because, it's kind of like the analogy, if you train in medicine, you go to be a GP, then you train in surgery, you become a surgeon to specialise in plastic surgery, then at any point, no one's going to doubt that you can do that.
I know.
When you turn up and you pay however X amount to do some plastic surgery for your face. Yeah. You don't go, excuse me for a minute, can you just prove that you can do it? Yeah. And that's what we have to do in this industry. You have to just constantly prove it. So,
But I've drifted off a little bit, but the Only Boys Aloud charity and the Aloud charity and the confidence that would be building in children and boys is amazing.
You've also benefited from being part of groups, and you can see the benefit of that, and you've experienced that. Is that something you'd want for your boys?
Oh, definitely. I think I'll give them the opportunity to be involved in whatever they would like to be involved in, but have the fact that it exists, that Only Boys Aloud exists, that Only Voices exist, is always going to be a positive, because there will always be children and young people out there that are looking for their outlet to, be accepted, just finding their little group, finding their groove, finding that place where they belong, and can just either completely excel and go on to do amazing things like you, just find themselves, have that kind of because being a teenager, this is blinking hard. There's so much going on.
I was going to say, you hit the nail on the head there. It's not just about that environment, it's about that environment at that age, at that time.
It's so important.
It's so hard.
I mean, I got once, I don't really watch the news and stuff like that. I find it a bit depressing, but I imagine there's a lot going on in wherever in the UK, in Wales, in the valleys, in Cardiff, where it's so easy for that young person who's so, impressionable, to just take the wrong step and meet the wrong group of people and not be kind of just navigated to the better choice. Yeah. But I'm being stereotypical, but I see groups of boys on their bikes with their hoods up, and I think, I cannot have that for my children. I don't want them to be in an environment where they could be at risk of all these influences. There'll be things that happen, we've all been young and we make silly decisions. But if there's something like Only Boys Aloud where they can just go there on a Thursday evening rather than going to the street corner. Yes. I don't know, it's just I think it's so important to have it there.
And the other thing is that it's completely free.
That is incredible. That is incredible, because not much in life comes free.
So that's kind of hitting something there, is, to be part of Only Boys Aloud would be brilliant, to expose to music and drama and performing and confidence and finding yourself, whether you want to go and pursue music and singing as an actual career or not. Yeah. How would you feel then about, balancing in a couple of years' time, Only Boys Aloud rehearsals on a Thursday for Jack, Only Boys Aloud rehearsals for Louis, potentially on a Tuesday, football's on Tuesday, oh my God, and then Jack's got a rugby, and then they've got after school French, wow, and then plus your stuff, you and Ellis's.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. I think, you have to make those decisions when you come to it based off what the children want and what you think is benefiting them most. But if they can have the balance, amazing. You know, we've spoke about the fact that you probably one of the few people that had that balance between the music side of things and the more sporty side of things. And I'm sure you were very good academically in school as well. You probably were an overachiever in a lot of areas. There'll be a lot of children that aren't like that.
Yes.
So I think it's deciding, them figuring out what works best for them.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a professional footballer. Like at the age of
Did
15,
you?
16, I was in academies, in Cardiff and Swansea. And I thought that was going to be my thing, you know. Long story short, I got dropped and that was the best thing that ever happened to me because I focused on academics, focused on other stuff,
Right.
and here I am. But it is strange how things kind of work out.
Yeah, definitely. You know? And like my nephew at the moment is really into football. But I will definitely be telling him about this because I've heard that he has got a voice. But I think in society, and I don't know how you break this down, I think we are breaking it down as time goes on. But I would say our instinct as a family, and as you know, my sister won't mind me saying this, but maybe your instinct wouldn't be to send him to a choir. Just because maybe his friends are not doing it.
That is interesting because, and this will probably come up in my episode as well. You know, I was, 14 when Only Boys Aloud started.
I suppose you're a bit older.
And I loved singing.
Yeah.
I loved performing. I was already doing it in Amdram and school.
Yeah.
And I was also doing sport and other stuff. They were very separate in lots of different ways. But I didn't jump at the opportunity to join Only Boys Aloud at that time. Because it wasn't cool.
That's the thing.
And
How do you break that stigma
well,
down?
that's what the whole stigma was.
I think maybe the choir word is where the stigma comes from, unfortunately, because, you know, I used to do choir in my lunch break in school and all my other friends would be out the back doing whatever.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to choir. I just felt a bit, I don't know.
So that's, and I agree. I
Proper.
agree. I had the same thing. I didn't want to go to choir. Even though I would loved it, I didn't go, and I would have to have been pushed to go. But now, full circle, now you've performed with Only Boys Aloud, I think, Only Men Aloud as well.
Yeah.
You've seen that. You also know me. You know other people as well who have been through it. You've seen the benefit of being part of it. What would you now say now then with your boys? You know,
for me, I would say, well, do you want, because I know about it, I would say, do you want to give it a go? Or, you know, do you like singing? Do you want to see if you could make some lovely friends there? Because that's another thing. You could make some friends for life. It could be where you meet your best man or, you know, there's so many things that you think, oh, just by doing that. And I think it speaks volumes, the fact that it's 15 years.
And what would you say to parents who are thinking about it? Yeah, so like you obviously have got an insight into it, but what if you bumped into a friend around here who were like, do you know anything, you know?
Well, not surprisingly, I get a lot of messages through social media. My daughter, son, whatever, is really into music. Can you do a singing lesson? There's nothing around. Do you know where I could be sending them? Is there anyone you'd recommend? Yeah. And there isn't much that I would recommend, but Only Boys Aloud, and now Only Voices Aloud, I would recommend if they're able to get to a venue where they have rehearsals and things like that. Yeah. You know, you might find the most introverted person shines on stage, and then that could potentially feed into their life and give them a bit more confidence in a day-to-day, you know. I hate speaking on the phone to people. You know, say I got to ring my water company. I absolutely freak out. But then I think, you're a bloody performer, like, come on.
Wow.
Pull it together. But I'll gear myself up. I'll be like, right, what am I going to say? And then I go on this long-winded tangent. I'm just ringing. So basically, the thing is, the other day, my water went off, but it's okay because it was on before that. Instead of going, my water's off, I go around the world. So I think being a performer helps me go, afterwards, I go, oh, well, it doesn't matter. You know, I've got that kind of like nonchalant attitude about it. I've kind of got off.
Don't dwell on it.
Don't dwell on it. But being a performer has so many other positives. I think it teaches you how to work as a team. It teaches you to understand different people. It teaches you to be compassionate. Different people got different things going on. You know, we'd have a show one day and someone would come in and something's gone on in their private life, and you just get to know people on such a deeper level because you're working so closely. Yeah. I feel like I'm a people person. But probably more so because of what I do. I feel like I see all walks of life. Our industry is very inclusive. Yeah. To be around everybody.
Yeah, broadening horizons, right?
Definitely.
Like, and I remember that for me, like when I joined Only Boys Aloud, I did know some of the people who were in Merthyr and Aberdeen from years back, Amdram actually, and some of those are my best friends, like life friends now, because we've rekindled. But I do remember it being broad in horizons. Like I mentioned it a little bit. I don't know if it's in this episode, a different episode, where like, you know, I loved sport, I loved music, I loved drama, I quite liked some academics, and I quite like lots of different things.
Yeah.
But the people who I went to football with certainly weren't going to drama, and the people who did drama didn't play the piano, and you know what I mean? It was all different.
Yeah.
So when I went to Only Boys Aloud, it was almost like, oh, hang on a minute. All of these people, or lots of these people, also do these things. So that immediately just broadened my horizons. And I was like, oh, like without sounding like really deep, like this is obviously my people. Like this is where I kind of belong. You know?
I think that's what makes Only Boys Aloud so interesting though as well, is because everyone there is different. It's not...
Yeah.
We're all privately educated boys who sing in the church choir because that's just what we do. It could be anyone. It could be someone that's from Cardiff that's privately educated, and it could be someone from the valleys who has never sung
Aberbeeg or Aberdeen.
has never sung a note in their life. But you know what? They recently saw Only Boys Aloud on telly and thought I can give it a go.
Yeah, and you know they sing everything from Coldplay and Ed Sheeran. You know, so there's something for everyone. There's songs for everyone, and I think you know I don't need to sit here, or neither do you, to sit here and talk about the power of music, the power of how that can help. But I think it's more about, as you said, just being in that environment where you can broaden or grow or challenge or flourish your thoughts and your social skills, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So you've performed with Only Boys Aloud, right? You've performed with Only Men Aloud as well.
Yes.
I can't remember if that was when I was there, I don't know.
I've not done Only Men Aloud with you, no.
Right, but Only Boys Aloud you did.
I did.
And that was a couple of years ago. Do you remember that?
That was a long time ago. I was very lucky. Gosh, this must have been, how old am I? About 11, 12 years ago. Wow. I had a BBC show commissioned with the BBC National Orchestra of Wales, and Only Boys Aloud were a special guest. I think it must have been around the time of BGT. When was BGT?
Oh yeah, it was 2012.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It might have been that year or 2013. And you had a solo and you sang So This Is Christmas. And I just remember thinking, this is so wholesome, because all of these boys are just you, all in your shirts, singing so beautifully, and it's not been seen before. I felt like I'd never seen it before. It was new. It was really refreshing. You were all so different and amazing as well, though. Like the sound that you create was actually fantastic with that orchestra behind you. So yeah, I think Michael Ball was the other guest. You outshone Michael Ball, I think. I love Michael Ball, obviously.
We all
Only Boys Aloud were the special moment, I think, to show off the talent that we have in Wales through the medium of these young boys.
Yeah, and some of those boys would be interested in singing initially. Some of them wouldn't have been, though. No, as you said.
That's so cool.
Some of them would have been pushed along, dragged along, fallen in, you know. And then there they are on that stage, you know, performing on the BBC, done that. And, you know, that's just one of the experiences. Like, I could reel off incredible experiences. Buckingham Palace, Britain's Got Talent, ITV, BBC, Coronation Festival. We did an album with Sony, you know, like...
Yeah, incredible.
The Principality Stadium we did that for the Ryder Cup. You know, we did like absolutely incredible.
That's one hell of a roster, that is.
That was with Shirley Bassey.
Yeah, gosh.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
so the opportunities that the choir are providing people...
Yes.
You know, you would never have.
And I have to say, like, it was incredible for me and for us of that generation who did those things. But it is even more incredible to me that it is still going 15 years after, and it is still providing those experiences for boys who are in it now. Mm-hmm. That's the most amazing thing. The
logistics of something like that, there's nothing to be sniffed at.
No, and again, you know, it's completely free to be part of. Yeah. So, you know, all of that was just something that you could just do. Yeah. And things cost so much to do, to be doing those experiences and to have that atmosphere and achievements. It costs nothing. Yeah. It's been brilliant to hear all of the stories that are linked to your wonderful career, your best job yet as mum to the boys, and the impact that music and confidence has had on your journey so far. Now, Only Boys Aloud has always been about more than just singing and about music, as I said. It's about finding your place, your people, and your voice. So before we finish, there's a bit of a play on words with Aloud, right? Only Boys Aloud. You know, allowed you can be allowed to do that, or you should do it aloud. You should do it openly spoken and freely and confidently. So with that in mind, we ask everybody this same question at the end of each episode. So what does being allowed mean to you?
Oh, being allowed. I think how I perceive it is being included, being a part of something, but having a voice. So it's kind of a hybrid of the both meanings. Whenever I think of Only Men Allowed or Only Boys Allowed, I think only positively. I just think of the experience, the times I've watched and been blown away by the performances, times I've watched as like an outsider in a rehearsal, just allowed to be yourself and have a voice, I think is what allowed means to me.
I love that.
Yeah. Oh, good. I felt quite precious.
That was really. I was quite emotional listening to that. I was like, oh yeah, because it's right. You know, it's right. And I think that's the beauty of that question, is that you've got a unique experience into what the Aloud charity and Only Boys Aloud been.
I feel quite close to it. I think seeing I watched Last Quiet Standing, so I'm going way back to even before the idea of Only Boys Aloud came around. Yeah. And even that at the time was kind of transformational for Welsh male choirs. Totally. So, you know, it stems right back to Tim Rees, just having that vision and idea and wanting to change the mind, the stigma. The stigma, definitely. And how he just wanted everyone to have their chance. Yeah. And if that means on a professional level and all the way down to just doing it for a laugh. Yeah, and I think that's great. And within that, people have gone on to do all sorts of different things, which you'll find out if you watch all the different episodes. You know, it's people who haven't just gone on to do what I've done, and that is people who've gone on to do all sorts of incredible experiences. Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for having me. You're smashing it. Can't wait to watch. Hello, Sophie Evans here, performer, presenter and more recently mother to two beautiful boys. And my advice to any parent who has a child who may have an affiliation with music or just wants to be involved in something new, an Aloud choir is where you need to be looking. Do not hesitate. They will have the most fun, meet like-minded children and just find themselves, hopefully. So here's some information below as to how you do that. And I hope it all goes really well for them and they shine bright as they should.